Hey guys, Abel here, back with another video. As you may or may not be able to see, I'm in a new place, new location. It resembles the old setup a bit more. Over time, I hope to assemble something on the wall so that my cat can come behind me and keep stealing the show in my videos. I'm going to be reacting to the recent Jeff Nippard fiasco, Jeff Nippard saga. So for what it's worth, I'm gonna be dropping my own 2 cents. So I don't normally do natty-or-not type videos, and that is for a couple of different reasons. Reason number one is that it just tends to attract a very specific crowd, and you know which crowd I'm talking about. They are angry, cynical, hostile, not a lot of good intentions in general, way too preoccupied with tearing people down. They don't really want insight, they don't want their perspectives challenged, they really just want blood. And that can be super interesting if you're a content creator who is happily serving that blood on a platter. But if you have the wild ambition to actually offer some nuance, it becomes very frustrating. Because the moment that you say anything less extreme than these guys are all juiced liars, you're immediately being branded as being part of the fake natty mafia. Secondly, it just irritates me how the whole natty or not witch hunt is built on a disingenuous premise. People pretend that it's about helping others, preventing people from being scammed, or preventing people from getting false expectations. But come on, this sounds about as genuine as the claims of those who will sell an ebook for $100 and they will say that they do this so that people value the product more. Let's get real. This is an easy, cheap way of tapping into people's need to hate someone. People have a general need to be angry at something from time to time and to spend their frustrations and anger on that thing. Some do it with politics, others do it with sports. I do it with football all the time. Others channel this energy into anyone with a great physique. And content creators figured this out a long time ago. They know that outrage drives views and clicks, and what better target than a jacked guy who claims natty? It's basically the fitness version of a witch trial. If these content creators were so concerned about helping people, they would focus on education. What's achievable naturally? How do average people make the most out of their genetics? These would be the real questions to answer. And while doing that, of course, you can also analyze the physiques of specific cases. Is this physique achievable naturally for most people? How much of a genetic outlier would this be if this was natural? Those are all very interesting and relevant questions for an audience that wants to learn and wants to improve. But instead, what we are left with is this weird loophole where steroid accusations and accusing people of lying and being scammers is completely acceptable. In fact, it's treated as some kind of public service announcement. But what it really is just legitimized hate speech, dressed up as protecting the youth or the gullible. So, what actually happened here? Well, Jeff Nippard made a video which went viral. He brought on 2 very muscular and very young guys, Hussein and Julian, drug tested them, and based on that, he concluded that they were natural. Then he used their examples to make a broader point that with excellent genetics and intelligent work in the gym, you can produce some extraordinary results, which most people would not believe is achievable naturally. Now, a lot of people were not happy with that. Fitness content creators, some of them with pretty massive followings, started creating one video after the other, claiming that Jeff is a sellout, he's lost credibility, and basically it became open season on Jeff Nippard. He became public enemy number 1 very quickly. So, what do I think of these 2 guys, Hussein and Julian? Do I think that they are enhanced? Honestly, same answer I've given for years about people like them. It would not surprise me if they were enhanced, but it would also not shock me if they weren't. When I see a guy like this, these days, my reaction is pretty much, damn, this guy. Is he natural? It would not surprise me if he wasn't, but is it within the realms of possibility that he is? If the answer is yes, then if I'm really interested, I might look into who the guy is, or there's some red flags, some telltale signs, and based on what I find, I might land on a particular conclusion. But whatever that conclusion is, would it be enough to then make me go out there and start making public claims about how this guy is a lying sack of shit and he's a scammer and that you should not trust him because he's a drug user? No, because I always have to think to myself, what if I'm wrong? Accusing the innocent is pretty bad. To me, that's actually one of the worst things that you can do and one of the worst things that can happen to you. Now, if my suspicions were very well founded, then it might be forgivable. But if at this point my only justification was that your physique just looked too good to be natural, I think that would be really bad. And to me, this is one of the biggest issues with these types of videos these days. Just look at any of the videos of Revival Fitness on this topic. He's not voicing suspicion. He's not explaining why he's suspicious. No, he's well past that point. The guy is already angry about the fact, which he clearly knows to be a fact, right? I mean, he has to know it because that's how he talks. Well, no, and that's the problem. He doesn't know, but he acts like it. And the consequence, now everybody with a keyboard is going over to Jeff's channel and is flaming him and is calling him a scammer, lying piece of shit. I mean, we would never accept this in other areas of life. If you saw a wealthy person and then started making public statements about how this person must be committing tax fraud, you would get sued. If you saw a person with a creepy smile and a piece of candy in his hands and you started making public claims that he must be a pedophile, you would get in trouble. But somehow seeing a great physique that is well above average and making public claims about how this person is a drug user and is lying to people and he's a scammer and say all of that as a fact, that is somehow okay. Now, I will also say that these talking heads are probably right more times than they are wrong. We can for sure find numerous examples where people that they accused of being gear users later indeed turned out to be gear users. But there's also no doubt that they also do a fair amount of collateral damage. They certainly will and have accused people with gear use who were truly natural and whose biggest crime was just simply having freaky elite genetics. So where do we draw the line on this? How many wrong accusations are we okay with? 1 for every 10 right ones? Is it 1 in 20, 1 in 50? I don't know what the right number is. All I know is I am uncomfortable calling someone a liar and a scammer based on how they look. And here's the thing, this isn't some super hard problem to fix. You don't have to choose between realism and ethics. You can talk about what's likely. You can talk about what's achievable. You can express doubt without turning it into a character assassination. Honestly, if more content creators started doing just that, most of these problems would disappear overnight. With all that said, what about Jeff? My first instinct is to describe Jeff's video from concept to execution as well-intentioned but misguided. Now, that framing is based on the assumption that Jeff actually cares about any of this backlash that he has received, which is a bold assumption to make because then I have to remind myself that people like him, the big fish in the YouTube pond, usually don't actually care about backlash like this. Because if they did, they would have stopped making videos years ago. So there's a good chance that if Jeff could remake this video 10 times over, he would commit the same, quote, mistakes 10 times over. As far as he's concerned, he got what he wanted. Millions of views, hundreds of thousands of comments. His name is now trending even more than usual because all the reaction videos, so mission accomplished. My framing is also assuming that Jeff actually aimed this video towards people that are deeply entrenched in fitness culture because those are the ones that are usually also excited about the whole natty-or-not debate. Then again, I have to remind myself that the biggest fitness YouTubers usually aim for mass appeal. And by definition, pretty much, those audiences don't usually care about the whole natty-or-not debate. No, these will be the people who will have bought a year's supply of testosterone, or back in the day, they would have been the most loyal followers of six-pack shortcuts. That's the mass market. Low skepticism, gullible folks. Often, the biggest YouTubers will be targeting these audiences. Now, some creators will target them with snake oil BS. Jeff happens to target them with quality content, but the target audience will often be the same. Still, for the sake of this video, let's assume that Jeff actually aimed his video towards the folks who will watch 3 to 6 hours of YouTube fitness per day and then go and rage post on 10 different subreddits about fake natties. And in that case, if Jeff really wanted the thumbs up of these folks, I would say that his execution was naive. First of all, the tone of the video does not match the topic at all. The fake natty conversation is a hornet's nest, and Jeff walks into it with a honey spoon and a baby voice. The whole thing is just too cute. Actually, it's cutesy.
So there's an extremely high likelihood those arms are 100% natty.
His tone, the intonation, it sounds like he's reading a bedtime story to a toddler.
Based on their answers, I was able to pinpoint exactly which body features people look at when they're suspecting steroids.
The whole video just oozes this, it's all going to be okay, kids, type energy. The tonality doesn't communicate that, okay, I'm approaching a sticky subject and I'm putting on a healthy amount of skepticism. It's more like, tonight we are reading the magical world of freaky physiques. Now tuck in, little gym bros.
First, let's break down what people think a natural physique actually looks like.
Like halfway through the video, I honestly expected Jeff to suddenly go, and if you're ever feeling sad, just remember, science is beautiful, genetics is beautiful. In fact, you are beautiful. I know that sounds like nitpicking and like a bad faith style critique, but honestly, his tone reflects the whole attitude of the video. That attitude is very little skepticism and optimism to the point of detriment and to the point of risking appearing disingenuous. Actually, the metaphorical tone for the video is set right from the get-go when he pretty much opens up with, I'll show you how you can achieve all this 100% natural. So basically, we get the conclusion before the evidence. And when these two guys show up looking like Greek gods or like they're some direct descendants of the god of war, that claim needed some extraordinary evidence to lend with any credibility. Now, what do we get instead? Beyond a couple of eye-roll inducing lines, such as,
a few people pointed to subject number 5's quads as being a little suspicious, but I got in a leg workout with him, and I definitely think he earned those quads naturally.
And then,
I'm in the gym all the time. Like, it's like somebody's like basically saying, nah, you didn't put in the work, you just stuck a needle in your arm. But
right.
I'm like afraid of needles. I hate needles like so much.
we get a quick blood test which tested their testosterone levels and a couple of related markers. Then, when that came back clean, they were declared 100% natty. I would say that this level of due diligence is fair to consider overly lenient, even if you're not a conspiracy theorist, let alone by the natty-or-not inquisition. And if you know anything about that crowd, you know that for them, no evidence is ever strong enough. A single test, obviously never good enough, even if it tests for all the relevant markers. Recurring random tests, it's better, but still not good enough if it's too far apart. And even if they took place weekly or even daily, even then, I would expect them to find some issue with it still. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much expecting some of these folks to suggest that people like Julian and Hussein should move into a villa with 24/7 video surveillance. And if they do that for a year, and after that they come back clean, I mean, you tell me, some of them would probably get convinced, but I'm sure that a sizable chunk would still say that, well, you know, I still don't like how his delts are popping under blue lights. So You can never rule out anything. Long story short, putting forth a single test that checked for a handful of markers was never going to be the trump card that is going to calm everybody down. For the real skeptics, if anything, this was the perfect way to wind them up. Now, putting all that aside, I do think that there's one issue with this test that's a little hard to ignore, even if you're not a conspiracy theorist. And that is, I put forward that this test was never really going to catch or expose anyone. And it is not because Jeff pre-doctored and printed the results of the test. No, it's because realistically, the fate of this test was sealed long before these guys ever stepped into the testing room. I mean, let's think about this for a second. You're a young, up-and-coming fitfluencer. You're already getting a ton of attention and probably making very good money off your looks. Then Jeff Nippard, one of the most prominent figures in the industry with a gigantic audience and platform, calls you. You get to feature on his channel. This is an opportunity that could 10x your exposure overnight. If it goes well, your career trajectory as well as your income could step onto a whole new plane, just like this. If it goes badly though, it could tarnish your reputation before it's even built up. Now let's entertain the hypothetical that these guys are using something, yet they say yes to a video in which they are discussing their natty status. Do you show up unprepared in that case? I would say even if you don't know that there's a drug test coming your way, which Jeff said that they didn't know, and we will come back to that. I would say you bring your fake blood sample and tuck it into your underwear just in case. But then I would like to come back to this point for a moment. Did they really not know that there was a drug test coming up? I mean, let's just think about this for a few more seconds. Jeff booked a whole production crew. He invited lifters from all over the place to pose in their underwear. He brought in a live audience to comment. He even brought Hussein and Julian at the same time over to the studio to record the video. He built the whole concept of the video on this premise that look what you can achieve naturally, and here are my case examples for it. If 10 hours into the shooting of this video, one of them fails the drug test, what happens then? Does he call off the whole shooting and eats the losses? He recasts everything? Or does he call them out on camera, like, you lied to me, now get out of my studio? And then they cry and sprint away, or they go into rage mode and start breaking cameras. I mean, all of that is super entertaining to imagine and would probably make for an even more viral piece of content than the eventual video itself. But what's far more likely is that all parties involved wanted to avoid such inconvenient scenarios. Whether that was accomplished by the guys truly being natural, therefore not having to pull any magic tricks, or by them just preparing ahead of time to hide whatever they had to hide, is almost irrelevant here. The point is that it's just really hard to believe that Jeff and the production crew were sitting there waiting for the test results with their breaths held. So personally, if I'm gonna get conspiratorial about Jeff at some point, it would be this point of the video. So long story short, my verdict on Jeff is, did he underestimate the backlash? Maybe. Was he overly optimistic and too soft with his tone? Arguably. Did he portray too little healthy skepticism? Definitely. Was that a disservice to his audience? I would say yes. But do I think that he joined some fake natty mafia? No. I think that he simply saw an opportunity for a video that could go viral. He found two freaky looking guys that would grab a lot of attention and generate a lot of talking. And he packaged it all with the general message: with hard work and freak genetics, this is possible, even if it's rare. Which, by the way, is true. So that core message is legit. But still, this was a loaded topic, and he jumped right in with a smile a tad too wide. Still, as much as I can critique Jeff and I can critique some aspects of this video, the talking heads that reacted to his video overstepped any line of reason by such a margin that I have a real hard time not making them out to be the bad guy in this whole situation. Because some of these videos and the tone of these videos, it's not just that they were critical or cynical, but they were aggressive, hostile, and to be honest, inciting. I mean, the only thing missing from some of these videos was a line like, "Come on guys, join me, let's tear them apart, let's tear them down together." That's not education, that's not realism, that's mob behavior. And I have a big problem with that. And I would say that this is somewhat independent of the general issue that I have of accusing people illy-nilly. That whole thing is problematic, in my opinion, and I think way too many people engage in that as well. The norm these days is guilty until proven innocent. All it takes for someone's reputation to be tarnished and to be dragged through the mud is one accusation. It is the dominant mentality, and it has been accepted as the norm. I have issues with that too, and I don't like it. But this, what we are dealing with in the case of some of these talking heads, is inciting. It is calling their audiences to direct hate towards a person. That is serious stuff, and it's kind of crazy to me that this is acceptable, to be honest. People hear all this and they think that I'm advocating for being naive or intentionally acting dumb or gullible. But no, there's a difference between having a personal opinion as a private individual and discussing or venting about that opinion to your private circle of people versus being a public figure and an influencer and broadcasting slanderous claims to 500,000 followers. The difference between the two is gigantic. But online, that difference is starting to get lost. So in conclusion, where do I stand? Do I think that either one of these guys is enhanced? It would not surprise me the least bit if they were. It would also not shock me if they weren't. Do I think that it matters much? Not really, because even if they are natural, it is because they have outlier freaky genetics, which means that if you want to start following their training routines because you're hoping that one day you're going to wake up looking like them, that's hope invested into the wrong thing. And honestly, for any content creator, creating some order around false hopes like this is a far bigger service that we can provide as opposed to writing a whole new crime novel about someone's alleged steroid use. Jeff went about this video in a strange way. Not great to convince anybody who was so far skeptical. Great, however, to wind them up even more. It was either a naive move or maybe a highly calculated and strategic one. I don't really know. I don't really care. I did get more irked by the responses of all these folks who overstepped any line of reason. So all in all, I guess I could even say there's just really nothing new to see here. Either way, I would be curious to hear what your take is. Just please be civil about it. I would love to hear what your opinion is, but elaborate on it. Use reason to argue for why that is your opinion, and be nice. I always have to emphasize that with topics like this. Just play nice, please. Anyways, if you liked the video, I would be honored if you liked and subscribed. If you would like to do a consultation with me, you can find the link for booking for that in the description, as well as other info about coaching and things like that. And otherwise, I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. No, bye-bye.